All right, now to cap off the show, we're going to be reviewing 3,000 Years of Longing, a.k.a. the new film from the director of Mad Max Fury Road, George Miller. He gave us Mad Max Fury Road as well as Happy Feet, and this is based on the short story The Djinn and the Nightingale's Eye. On a trip to Istanbul, a lonesome scholar meets a djinn who offers 3 wishes to trade for his freedom. Film is, of course, starring Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba. Now, picking off of that, I remember when we talked about this trailer, when it came out, however many months ago at this point, we both were intrigued by Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba being paired together in the same film. And I have to say, I'll start out by saying their individual performances I thought were really solid. I forgot that they were acting most of the time. Like, I had to remind myself, like, oh shit, that's a white witch from Narnia. And oh shit, that's Idris Elba. You know, but like, you made this point too before I did, like, as we were coming out of the theater, like, their chemistry, just like, I don't know. There's just something about their pairing that just didn't do it for me.
Yeah, that was the biggest thing I noticed and felt from the movie, and even throughout, was that I wasn't fully invested in their chemistry and necessarily their dynamic. I was interested more in the short stories he was telling, even though those short stories, I feel very mixed, if not a bit more negative about it now compared to when we first got out. Mainly because I'm looking at even some of the short stories, and it's like, alright, they didn't feel as, at least, maybe connected as I thought it would be, especially considering the ending. Like, the ending kind of almost ruined it for me in a bit. But again, that beginning, a bit of the middle was a bit lackluster, but the beginning I thought was pretty interesting, pretty strong. But in general, I kind of wasn't as engaged in the film as I thought I would be.
Yeah, as much as those like short stories that he was telling throughout, like were interesting, right? On an individual story basis, those were interesting. Yes. But they kind of just felt like the story as a whole like felt kind of scattershot, right? So I kind of felt like these short stories were just like thrown in there just to be thrown in there. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like they served a greater purpose other than to be interesting in that moment. Like, I think the only thing that you could say like this movie has, right, is like a cautionary tale of wishes, right? Like, everything you wish for, you know, has a ripple effect, you know, like the grass is always greener on the other side, you know, but like, you know, there's a consequence to everything, you know, be careful what you wish for. That overlying theme throughout the movie is great, but at the same time, for some reason, these short stories, like I said, they just felt like, you know, little things to be shoehorned in there. Yeah. In like the grand scheme of things, as interesting as they were on an individual basis.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and one of the things, even when it came to like the short stories, it was, and this goes back to like you know how we're phrasing it, is that it was interesting, you know, but not necessarily we really liked it or enjoyed it. It was interesting. It was a different approach. But again, for me, I wasn't as sold or invested in it heavily. I did like the one thing I was invested in, and I really did like to a certain degree. And again, honestly, it tapered off completely for me at the end. It was Djinn. It was the Djinn. It was Idris Elba's character. I liked him a lot, like throughout, and I liked how he was telling the stories. I liked how even certain stories you can tell he felt a certain way, and, you know, I like that. But also how Tilda Swinton's character was sort of reacting to it, that chemistry just, I wasn't sold on, or I didn't feel it as much as I think it should have.
Which is not good, because the vast majority of the movie is the two of them. It's the two of them. So, yeah. Yeah, no,
it's just, the movie felt jarring. I think it felt jarring, disjointed at times, and just, like, when you think they're about to hit an emotional beat in a really good one, they kind of either dial it back or they switch, you know, and I've noticed it from time to time, especially even the transitioning to each of the independent stories that the genie was telling, it didn't feel as organic as I think it should have.
Yeah, because like the entire time he's literally telling her everything, right? Like now, I just thought of this now. Like what I think would have made this movie so much better, right? You get rid of everything having to do with Tilda Swinton's character, and you take all these individual short stories, and you just focus on that. You find a way to streamline those and connect those. Maybe like just like write some more story to transition into each of those individual short stories that we saw. I think you have a fantastic movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a
and just
different.
focus
Yeah.
it more on like
I like that approach.
and just focus it more on Idris Elba's character, like trying to gain his freedom. Like if the entire movie was just that throughout, again, 3,000 years, I think that would have been much more compelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it would have. And again, it's not. I don't think Tilda Swinton character was bad. It was just the end.
Didn't fit.
Yeah, it wasn't in sync, and I think the ending kind of threw a lot of what I guess they were trying to go for up in the air, sort of thing, and they didn't know exactly how to stick the landing. And even with certain revelations, it didn't. Like, Tilda Swinton's character is an interesting one, mainly because I think it sort of backfired, like, what she ended up doing in the end. I don't want to spoil it. It backfired in a way that she didn't expect. I can't. Oh man, I don't want to go into spoilers, but it was that ending,
all right.
And like how, you start seeing the Djinn and that thing. Like when he was closing into the basement. That's all I can say.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, yeah, okay. We don't need to go. We don't need to dig deeper than that. I see. I don't want to make you spoil anything,
but like that scene, it was just like it kind of almost all the things she was saying and how and as we were talking about with the themes of the movie, it backfired on her. And not necessarily out of ill intent or anything like that, compared to the other characters and the stories he was telling, where they kind of went mad, whatever, and got lost. This was just in a more almost a nuanced way that was trying to also give that wholesome feeling of that overall of what, and again, of the theme as we were talking about of, all of these stories when it comes to witches and genies is, casualties and that sort of thing. And like, it's a double-edged sword to it. And I think it was done, but in a different way. And I like that, but again, the other ending too, it kind of just reverted back, and I wasn't too fond of it. But yeah, like I said, it's a weird movie. I feel odd with it. I'm not entirely too sure still. But overall, just my experience I didn't feel as invested, and it just felt disjointed.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm in a similar, if not the same boat as you. I'm still very much a mixed bag on this film. What I will say is I do have to applaud George Miller for doing something different. Mm-hmm. Right? Think about it. This guy is in his, 70s, mid to late 70s, and he's making a movie as crazy as this one. Just 7 years ago, he made Mad Max Fury Road, one of the greatest action movies of all time, right? Widely considered one of the greatest action movies of all time. The film was not even a decade old. So I do have to applaud him for that, for trying something different, because there's so much about this movie that felt different. Even if not all of it worked, I do applaud the effort, and I noticed the effort. Mm-hmm. And I could still, anytime like his name is brought up in conversation, or like anytime he has like, another movie coming out, like moving forward, I'll still be interested. Like I'll still remember Mad Max Fury Road more than 3,000 years. Yeah. But, I respect him very much as a filmmaker. I do feel like this movie was a little too odd for its own good. Because again, there's a certain oddness that comes with George Miller's films that, again, in a lot of ways work and make them feel like their own thing and stand out and still make you feel more invested. This movie with 3,000 Years, I'm like, it's still, that quirkiness like didn't always sell. It didn't always work. There was an emotion that I felt was lacking. I do think that this movie, particularly towards the end, like the third act of the movie, I'm like, all right, when's this ending? This felt like it was going to end multiple times. Mm-hmm. And anytime it didn't end, anytime I was wrong about it not ending, I'm like, oh, man. So, like, it could have probably been a little bit shorter. Visuals, I have to say, visuals from the effects to like the costume design, the production design, like that was really solid. I'll definitely give the movie a lot of credit for that. What do you think about like the visual aspect of this film overall and like the artistic design?
Artistic design when it came to some of the short stories, really solid. Him as the genie in certain scenes, I couldn't. It didn't look right to me. Like I could kind of see almost. I don't know. I guess now I have an eye for this on occasion, not all the time. But I kind of saw like almost as if Tilda Swinton's character was like silhouetted or masked into the scene per se, and it didn't look entirely right. But overall, the visuals, production design, as you were saying, I thought they looked great. There are just certain scenes when it came to the certain scenes just didn't completely sell me when he was big and massive.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Now, looking back on that, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, what are your if you have gotten a chance to watch it, what are your thoughts on George Miller's film 3,000 Years of Longing? Leave your thoughts wherever it is that you can, and of course, as always, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for all notifications for more movie reviews like this one.